Welcome back, everyone, to the next episode of IPRA Rec Room. Today I'm here with Mark, and we will be your host, and we have a great guest. His name is Duane Smith. He is the Education Director for IPRA, and he will be taking us on a little behind-the-scenes sneak peek of what's happening here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of your background and how you became working for IPRA and what experience in the Park District world you had before that.
Absolutely. So I never expected that I would ever be working for the association. I have a background in education. Graduated from North Central College in Naperville. I majored in social sciences, minored in secondary education. I was actually a language arts teacher, believe it or not, for about 4 years prior to working in Parks and Recreation. But Parks and Recreation was my roots. I knew after 4 years of teaching that it wasn't for me long term, wasn't a good solution for me. There were specific challenges for me with my hearing in the classroom, so I thought, why not give Parks and Rec another shot? So worked in Mokina for about 10 years, and I would say probably, I don't know, maybe my 6th, 7th year, I started to get engaged with the local affiliate group in that area, which is SSPRPA, and got involved in programming and organizing the education for the association. So I got very comfortable with it. I enjoyed it. And then IPRA opened up a new position back in 2016 that would support education. I thought, well, I'm enjoying what I'm doing as a volunteer for SSPRPA. Why not give IPRA a shot? Interviewed, and the rest is history. So here I am.
Nice. So can you share a story about how a specific IPRA resource or event made a significant impact on you or somebody that you know?
Yeah. What comes to mind first, this is going to be a story for myself. So I was about 4 years into my career as a park and rec professional in Mokina. Our team, we went to the Soaring to New Heights conference that January, and we actually decided to go to the awards luncheon that year, which was kind of rare for our team because we didn't do a lot of things together. So we had a new director at the time, and he wanted to do some more things as a team. So we went to the awards luncheon, and 4 years into my career at this point, right, I'm very motivated. I'm easily inspired, and I was looking for affirmation in the work that I was doing as a rec supervisor. And in the awards luncheon, Mike Giancasio, who is now the superintendent of recreation at Homewood Flossmoor, he was at Lyle Park District at that time, won the Young Professional of the Year award. And watching his video and seeing the work that he did and listening to his speech, I think for me, it just made me want to reach higher personally and professionally, because I saw the work that he was doing was similar to the things that I was doing in Mokina. And he was having a ton of success, and he was getting recognized at a state level. So for me, when I saw that, I thought, I'm on the right path. Like, I'm doing something that I love, something that has a lot of value, something that has a lot of impact in the community. Like, let's go, let's do this. This is where I want to be. So to answer your question, I wanted to be like Mike.
I've had that same thought, and not to interrupt Vince, but I was at that same spot probably 5 years into my career. Was like, I want to win that award. I want to be something that people recognize and like aspire to be as well. You know, somebody in 10, 15 years be me. And I had that same thought. I don't have any specific examples of who won the award, but I was like, I want to give back to my community, do well in my park district, and still get recognized. And I think the older I got, it was less about actually winning the award and more about getting involved with IPRA and my community and offering and doing programming. And then I've aged out of being able to win the young professional because I've had too many years experience, but it's still like something that kind of was like a fire in me, in my belly. It was like, I want to do more. So I totally relate to like where you were at and thinking, and hopefully some of these young professionals that are in the field that are at conference coming up here in a couple months can, you know, feel that same feeling that we did and kind of push the field even further than we kind of have already.
Well, now you can also go for Professional of the Year. So, hey, set your sights a little bit higher now.
Yes, yes. I think I do qualify for that one still. So that's my next goal. So
speaking of qualifying, award applications now open. Go on IPRA website and go to our awards tab. So
and nominate Mark, please. I think I just want to comment on that. I think that's one of the advantages to getting involved and getting comfortable with the uncomfortable is when you start to meet people and you build your network and you put yourself out there, you can sort of gauge where you're at and your success against these other people. And I think that some people need that affirmation. Like, I think that's important for them to, feel good about what they're doing so that they can take it to the next level, be more confident in pursuing some of those higher level opportunities.
For sure. Some people, like you said, need that recognition. Some people just want to high fives, pat on the back. Some people want to raise. Like, everybody has their different things that help them. And yeah, some people, it's for sure like speaking out, getting an award or things like that. So yeah, I definitely agree.
Too. You could always do a parade. And,
yeah,
that helps.
Yeah, for sure. Just like Mike, right?
Right.
It's always fun. So we continue with the topic of education and kind of being able to put yourself in position maybe to get one of these awards somewhere down the line. What can you tell us about the new LMS system that IPRA has been working on?
So the LMS, very excited about the LMS.
What does LMS stand for people that don't know?
Learning Management System.
Okay,
LMS,
perfect.
Learning Management System. So yeah, it's an exciting and a scary thing all at the same time. We know that this is a big task that is in front of us. We want to make sure that we get it right the first time. We believe that there's a ton of value in it and that the members are going to benefit from it. I think one of our advantages is that we have good support staff. We have Vince, who knows this stuff very, very well, so the support piece is there. It's just a matter of building it out, and what does that look like. But, the LMS, while it has its advantages, I think that we have to acknowledge that our association has been, and this is going to be no surprise to either one of you, our association has been largely an in-person association. Everything that we do, prior to the pandemic, with the exception of one or two things, has been completely online or in person. And we've done it well. I mean, we've been successful as a result of it. I mean, look where we're at right now. We're in a position where we're very strong financially. Our staff is growing. Just so many things are going very well, and even programs are expanding. So we're doing it well, but in the process, we have alienated, certain people throughout the state, including the metropolitan area. We have alienated them because they can't be there in person for whatever reason that is. Maybe they have a smaller budget and they can't afford it. Maybe it's a bandwidth issue. Some agencies, some professionals, they work at agencies where they're wearing multiple hats.
Right.
They don't have that ability to step away and attend a professional networking opportunity. Maybe it's geographical challenges.
Right.
People down in Springfield and Champaign, Collinsville, wherever it is, they can't be expected to leave for the day to attend a 60-minute, 90
drive
minute,
4 hours one way for a
20-minute session and then drive back. Even if you live in the metropolitan area, if we do something up north, the Southsiders, what are they saying? Well, we're not driving all the way up north, and vice versa. You do it in the South, what are the Northsiders saying? So, we have done well with in person, but we have alienated people for a number of different reasons. And it was unintentional, of course, but we know that we need to fix it. We know that we need to do better. And by doing so, we're improving our service delivery. So the LMS, right, kind of comes into play after the pandemic. During the pandemic, we all learned, you learned as a park professional, we learned as association professionals, that there's value and there's a place for us in the virtual world. We just have to find that right means to doing it. And I think the LMS helps us accomplish that. We can continue to do things in person well, and then we can now do better in the virtual space. And the LMS is going to bring a lot of opportunities for a lot of different people. We're going to be able to do live recorded on-demand webinars. We're going to be able to do mini courses, go through a couple of different classes, answer some questions, get some CEUs, get a certificate of completion, maybe a badge, a digital badge, articles, white papers, engaging in social community platforms. It's kind of like the online communities, but doing it at a higher level or a more engaging level. And so it's going to create this centralized platform that I think is just going to be beneficial for everybody, whether you like the in-person only or virtual only. Like, there's something here for you. I think the other thing is that, and this is important for us not to lose focus, is our volunteer leaders are going to have a more centralized location to work on their programs and complete their tasks. So, like, maybe it's the board of directors will be able to take advantage of it to keep all of their documents in one place, or the ProConnect board of regents will be able to utilize the platform to communicate more effectively and keep all of their, documents together. So there's a lot of advantages.
Yeah, I think the resources is personally what I'm most excited about, especially when I was working in Parks and Rec as a member of IPRA with like the special events committee, or the youth and teen groups or the camp groups, and everybody's looking for like, oh, what are you doing especially during the pandemic, what are you doing for your camp manual, how's that changing, like how are your policies changing, like being able to have a central place for all of those documents that's not necessarily like in a Google Drive that you need a link to, that
Google Drive,
you have
Box,
you have to
I need permission from you because it's locked, or
and then you're like, oh, like, can you share that with me? And they're like, oh, I shared it with you. And then you're like, oh, well, you didn't give me the right permission, so now I can't even read it, and then like or somebody has access to edit it and they change things. So it's like, now at least like you can go somewhere, it's going to be there. And then on top of that, one of the best things that I'm also excited about is you can host your meetings directly on the platform there. So like no more sending out a million emails with like links. You just be like, okay, you log into the community at like this time, you'll get a notification, you click into your meeting from the community, and now you're in your meeting. Or if you need to host one impromptu, I think it just allows a lot of flexibility.
From my perspective as a member, I think since the pandemic, we've had positions have changed when they work. Like now being able to offer something on the platform, be like, hey, I work a 2 to 10 o'clock shift. Well, the meeting might be at 11 o'clock, or this might be here. So it gives that flexibility, I think, to the members to be like, hey, I can do this on my time, or I work Tuesday through Saturday, and Saturday I might work, but it might be a slower day. So I can do some of this stuff now online versus, oh, I'm only in person. I think to the committees, like you guys were talking about, is every 1 to 3 years you have somebody rolling off and somebody new. So now here's the centralized location storage of
binder.
Yes, it's a virtual binder now that everybody has access, that might be in that committee or that group or whatever, that they have the materials, the resources, the previous history of what happened, so that now they can just build on it versus, oh, great, I took over as a chair for this position and I have no backup. So I'm just starting from scratch. Now I have 2-year term and I'm like a year in and I'm like, I'm just starting now because I had to create all this stuff for the first year. So I think there's a lot of upsides that probably the pandemic has caused things to speed up faster. And I feel like IPRA has done a lot better with the virtual and the Zooms and the recordings. I mean, I remember in 2016, 17, 18 going to rec section meetings and being like, why are we not recording these so that if people can't show that they can still see this? And then the pandemic happens, and then it's like, oh, well, we'll go virtual. We can. And now it's all of a sudden like
the silver lining,
right? Like it wasn't first nature back then because we didn't do virtual meetings even through work.
Right
now you have that opportunity. And it's like that's almost like a guarantee 1A, 1B in person virtual.
Right. I think it's a great way for people to discover everything IPRA has to offer too. Whereas like before you had to sign up for something in person, go to that event. That's kind of intimidating for a lot of people.
For sure. It'll force them to go to this platform, to the website, which will then open up things that they might not have realized.
Right. Like maybe they didn't understand what the sections do and like how to get involved, but now that it's all in one place and it's easy to get to and they can kind of see it and interact with people without just like showing up to a section meeting. You're like, I know none of these. I know that was how my first introduction was.
I was so scared going to my first one. I know nobody here.
Right, and then what happens? You end up sitting by yourself, and then you're like, well, I didn't know anybody. Nobody came up to me and talked to me, and you start to feel somewhat excluded in that situation.
Right. I'm not going to talk. I'm not going to say anything. I'll just sit back here, and then it's like,
especially as a young professional too, because it's like I ran into this where it's like I made really good friends like in the first couple of years, and then all of a sudden like, where'd they go? They're gone now.
They're off the boards because somebody else is new. Yes, definitely.
Well, if I may too, I think with regards to the LMS, like it's going to give our team an opportunity to expand on educational opportunities and other networking opportunities, resource opportunities that we otherwise wouldn't have without the LMS. It's going to give our team a chance to grow, bring more people in so that we can improve our service delivery and have more offerings. So I think it's a win-win for us as a team, and for the members.
For sure. All right, so two-parter. One is, when is the LMS launching? Do we have a date? Do we have a figure of when it might go live yet?
That's a really good question.
2025. I will leave it at a year.
Yeah, I support that answer.
So basically, we don't have a hard deadline, but it's like you said, there's a lot of background stuff that needs to go on. But at some point in 2025, that's the goal to launch,
yes,
right?
That is the goal.
We're working on it.
We are. We're working hard. I think maybe you should mention the steering committee and what we have going on there to help us. Yeah.
So right now we're working with a task force that's going to be helping us determine priorities within the system, as well as I'm sure a lot of people saw the survey that went out regarding the LMS and the features and prioritizing certain things. We know we're not going to be able to do everything all at once.
Right.
I mean, there's such a breadth of knowledge within Parks and Rec in general, because it runs the gamut from finance to leadership to DEI. There's so much. Yeah. So it's what do people want right now, and then what can we kind of take our time and build? Eventually it's going to have all of it.
Right.
Don't worry.
Eventually.
Right.
But it's going to take us some time.
You got to go in phases, like we said. What's the most important phase that's going to get the most amount of people involved first at a high level, and then you can start getting deeper and deeper and deeper from there.
Yeah. That's more challenging than it sounds, because
I'm sure
we have all these great ideas internally, and we want to do everything right now. But you just can't. You have to prioritize. Where do we need to start first and meet the needs, and then grow from there.
Yeah.
For sure.
I will say we are hoping to have something for people to see in progress to report around conference. That's the goal for me, at least.
Like a demo, like a beta version, almost hey, this is what it's going to look like. Here's a brief.
It might not have a ton of content on there, but you can at least see what it's going to look like, hopefully.
Yeah.
I'm not making any promises, but that's the goal.
This is recorded, so we're holding it to it, Vince. Okay,
but at least a color scheme.
Yeah, you might get that. It's going to be a logo on a blank page. Check it out.
Perfect. Okay, so kind of transitioning then. So, this is kind of what kind of has evolved over the time. So before the LMS and kind of your tenure here at IPRA, Duane, what has evolved during your time here, and then what changes do you foresee coming after the LMS, and where can we kind of go in the future?
Good question. So I've been with the association, it'll be 8 years this December.
Okay.
It's hard to believe it's been that long, but yes, 8 years. And while I have seen, there's been a lot of evolution across the board. A lot of things have evolved. And there's one thing that comes to mind that I'll talk about in just a second. But one thing I do want to acknowledge prior to talking about this one particular thing is acknowledge that we've been very lucky as an association to have some constants as well. We're rooted in a lot of tradition within the association, and there have been some things in place that have put us in a position where we've been able to evolve, to have that luxury, to be able to make changes and make improvements for the association. And I would say the biggest one would be the membership itself. Over my 8 years, I have not seen it waver at all. If anything, it has gotten stronger, but the membership's dedication, commitment, the passion to not only the work that they're doing within their industry, but the support that they provide to the association. They're involved, they're engaged, they take on leadership opportunities, they just care about the group, and that's been a foundation for us, and we are very thankful for that. Also, too, I think we're very lucky that we have 2 staff members that have been here for at least 16 years. Heather Weishar has been here for 22, 23, somewhere around
You would know
there.
more than I know.
And Barry Franks has been here for 16 years.
Wow.
And so for them to have the knowledge of that time,
right.
and they went through some major challenges, they bring a lot of experience and knowledge to our team, and they serve as a foundation. So those 2 constants, I think, are important to recognize, because again, it puts us in a position where we can now continue to evolve and continue to grow. I would say the thing that comes top of mind when it comes to evolution would be the staff and the changes that we have gone through as a staff team, all I think for the better. We do have to acknowledge that people have come before us, and there's been some staff that have done a tremendous job,
Right.
and we wouldn't be in the position that we're in right now without those people. But I think the evolution of staff has just helped us continue to grow and specialize a little bit more. So what I mean is, not only do we have more staff than we've had before, but, domains have changed quite a bit. Like, I used to be in charge of agency showcase. I used to oversee the awards, and I never had anything to do with the conference program, but I was the education director. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It was just the setup wasn't quite conducive
Right.
for the position and for myself. So that evolution now of the domains that are changing, right, I think has allowed us to become a little bit more specialized in our work, thus improving our service delivery. We have a community engagement manager that is solely focused on section management, and in the foreseeable future, developing a volunteer development program. We have a digital strategist who is working on the podcast and helping structure the LMS. We didn't have that before.
Right.
Had Vince not here, we wouldn't be able to do that. We have a conference manager who is focusing solely on conference operations, and she's also working on a sponsorship program to help develop more relationships with people and bring in more revenue for the association. So I think that specialization, the evolution of that specialization has helped us tremendously. As far as the future goes, where do we need to go? Where do I think we need to go? I think we need to continue to stay focused on the diversification of our services, diversification of the education, and also customization and specialization. Because I think when you look at that younger demographic that is in the field now, and as they grow in their career, those things are going to be very important for them. So I think that will have to be a focus for us as well.
Yeah. Maybe like, checkpoints for somebody throughout their career too, like kind of be able to give that guidance to people as they move throughout their career.
Right?
Pathways.
It's
our
magic
favorite keyword. Yeah.
But it's valuable. I mean, like you said, that pathway, like, somebody who, what do you do in your first 5 years to set yourself up for your next 5 that then will set you up for the last maybe 10 to 20 years of your, field of where do I go to get the resources, the education to, I want to be a department head. How do I get to that point
Right.
And
before I'm there? Because that's part of the thing I think in my position is like a lot of times you don't learn about the job till you're in the job.
Right.
So I think that's where IPRA has a good
opportunity
to educate people before they get the position, so they're ready in those interviews versus after the fact and being like, I got to take a chance on this person because this is what they did before, but I don't 100% know if they can do everything here because they've never done it before, but I got to pick somebody. Small districts, they got to pick people that haven't been superintendents before or haven't been directors before, and how do we get those resources and tools and information and networking to them earlier?
Right. And what about those people that come over from the private sector and have never worked in parks and recreation before?
Right. And understand
What
us
are they
weirdos
getting?
over here,
They have to wait for certification. I think it's 3
years. That was me. I didn't have a
qualify.
field.
So what are we doing in years 1, 2, and 3 before they can qualify to sit for the exam?
And everybody's pathway is different. Like some people might have the same end goal. Like maybe, you have 2 people in completely different departments who want to be an executive director. Your pathway through the parks department might be a lot different than your pathway through the rec department. Maybe a completely different pathway than somebody who's in finances as a background.
Right.
But
I feel like we were just having a conversation about that recently, about the
We
traditional pathway is through
Rec.
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 You
Right.
don't really see a pathway through parks, or through TR.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, so yeah, we need to expose that and open that up.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, what advice on that note? What advice would you give to professionals looking to advance their career within the industry?
So I'll share what's worked for me, and then the listeners can decide what is going to work for them. I would say at the beginning of my career, what worked best for me is when I felt comfortable enough to walk away from my work, when I knew that the house wasn't going to burn down, right? I got engaged with the local affiliate group SSPRPA, and there's a number of different groups that are out there, but I branched out a little bit, right? And I worked on building a network of people, a network of recreation supervisors that I could communicate with and bounce ideas off of. Some of those people from my time in Mokina, Mike Hayes, Kevin Miller here at the Park District of LaGrange, Josh Berry, Olga Viano, Scott Tierney, the list goes on and on. But that was important for me to take that next step. So I wanted to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, expand my network. Then once I started to get a little bit more comfortable within my network, I was looking for leadership opportunities within that network. And then that's when I got involved a little bit more in the athletic committee, and I pursued that opportunity to be the committee chair for the program committee.
Right.
Concurrently at that same time, I decided, because I was feeling a little bit more confident in the work that I was doing at the Park District, I had a stronger network, I was able to bounce, compare myself and measure myself a little bit to some of these people. I pursued certification. So I went after the CPRP certification, passed it on the first time. Honestly,
Congrats.
Yeah,
it's not an easy test.
Full disclosure here, I took the wrong approach to it. I didn't study for it. I didn't buy the study guide.
Really?
I just figured, you know what, I feel like I have enough experience in my own job that I have everything that I need to know to pass the exam. And that is not the right mindset for when you take that test. Because you have to remember, when it comes to certification, the standard is for the national level, not for the state or the local level. So what might be standard procedure for you might not be standard procedure at that national level. So that's why it's important. Take the course or buy the book and read the book to increase the chances that you are going to pass that exam.
The questions are also worded weirdly.
They are.
They are. But like Vince or Duane said, it's a national certification, right. And Illinois operates completely different than a majority of the country. So that is part of, I think, the difficulty of when you get into that position. And I would say same for like people that can't take the test right away. So I was in for 3 years. So you already have 3 full years of experience of this is what I do at my park district. But then when you take the test, that might not actually be the right answer because it's nationwide. So you have to retrain your brain sometimes on some of these questions to be like, no, this is the standard answer for the test. But it might not be the answer you would do for your current park district or where you're at because of how things operate a little bit different.
Right. Yeah. So I will argue, though, that there were things that I did learn on the job that weren't necessarily in the study guide that did help me. So it's kind of a balance between the two. It's not just one or the other.
For sure. It's book smart and street smart. You kind of have to take both of them of working and learning and kind of mend them together to kind of get to that point.
And then also figure out which of your street smarts that you've learned is not right for the test. You're like, oh.
So, I mean, back to the question, as I was looking for those leadership opportunities, I pursued the certification, and then, the rest was pretty much history there because I just felt more confident in my ability. I felt the certification brought credibility to my name. It brought credibility to the organization that I was working for, and I was just more open to those opportunities as they arise.
I think from my perspective on that one, kind of off what you're saying, Duane, is get involved at one spot, kind of like the LMS. Start somewhere. Get in a committee level and just go to the meetings. Don't have to be a chair. You don't have to go to the rec section meetings if you don't want to, but go to the athletic meeting. Go to a special events meeting. Do something like that where you're exposing yourself to other professionals, hearing ideas, and picking up names. Even if you don't introduce yourself, it's, I know these people's names. Then slowly start to introduce yourself, because that was my fear of I can talk, but then at the same time, I can be very introverted and don't want to be social and things like that until I start to know people. And once you start breaking that wall down, I think your network expands greatly, and that's where I think a lot of people will find their next jobs or the next 3 jobs of, I know somebody that works there, or I know somebody who knows this person because I was on the board of regents at ProConnect, or I did Park Pursuit, or I did this, or I did that. And
why not make it work for you?
Exactly. So that's where I would kind of say from my perspective as a member of, Just put yourself out there. Speak at conference. Find a buddy to speak with you, even at your own district, and people will slowly start to know your name and be like, oh, hey, that person does this. Maybe they can go here. I have a job opening or things like that. I mean, I feel like I got my job in Palatine partially because of the relationships I built through Park Pursuit. I was the chair, hosted in Palatine, happened to be during the pandemic, so we had to postpone it. So it was 2 years that I was working with people in Palatine that helped me get in the door and them to understand who I was outside of an interview. Then you add in all of the other stuff, then that's kind of a well-rounded picture. But like that's like getting your foot in the door. And I think a lot of people have found jobs that way because they've got their foot in the door because they know people.
Yeah, and maybe it's not starting outside of your agency. Maybe you start inside your agency, right? Join or throw your hat in the ring to sit on the safety committee, as fun as that is.
Right.
You know, but you still meet other people, right, and expand your horizons a little bit.
Yeah.
So for some people, that might be the better start.
For sure.
It really gets easier from there too. Like that first step is always the most intimidating.
It's always the biggest one. Yes.
Yeah. But then once you've met some people, like they know you, like you are like, okay, now you go to the next thing. You're like, oh, I know a couple people here. I've done this before. I'm used to this.
Right.
So then it's like when you go to conference and you want to give a presentation, you're like, oh, this is nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely. All right, so along those lines of like LMS and like where to go professionally and everything, like what would be, as an IPRA member myself, and one underutilized resource that IPRA offers that is like kind of like a hidden secret without being a secret? Like, what would you say to people like, go here because it's people don't know we offer this as a resource?
So this is an easy one. You don't even have to be a member for this one. I think Vince will appreciate this and might get a chuckle out of it. Scholarships.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. The Illinois Park and Recreation Foundation, they have money. They are here to advocate for you and your professional development. And we hear it time and time again that they are not getting enough scholarship applications. So if you are attending the Soaring to New Heights Conference, professional development school, you're going to pursue CPSI certification, CPO. Even if your agency has the money, in most cases people are applying when they don't have the money.
Right.
But you can attend any of those, even the NRPA Congress. Are you going to NRPA?
I will not be there this
No,
year,
but you're
unfortunately.
I'm going.
Okay.
First one ever.
Whoa.
So if you were in the industry and you were going to NRPA this year, you could apply for a scholarship through the foundation, even though it's a non-IPRA program.
I wish I would have done it when I was actually in the field.
Right. Right, exactly. So yeah, it doesn't matter. Member, non-member, IPRA program, non-IPRA program, people need to apply for scholarships. Again, the foundation they're trying to get the word out as much as they can, but they're just not getting enough interest. And,
Interesting.
You know, I know part of the reason why I think we can all agree that a lot of people don't pursue the scholarship application because the money's been budgeted and it's likely being paid for through the agency. It's not coming out of pocket.
Right.
That's not true for everybody. There are some people that don't have a choice and that they do have to pay their way.
Yeah.
All the more reason to pursue scholarships more often, right? But even if your agency has the money, by applying for the scholarship, you are extending those budget dollars to either more opportunities for yourself or to a colleague who might not otherwise have been able to do anything that particular year.
For sure.
So yeah, scholarships definitely are greatly underutilized.
Definitely did not see that one coming. You know, it's one of those you don't usually advertise a whole lot for scholarships in some, park districts or some, businesses because of it. But like, I think this is there's a lot of people that can benefit from a scholarship. Like you said, the professional development school, things like those that are a little bit more expensive that you're like, well, I have to pick and choose. This would maybe allow you not to have to pick and choose between this or that, going to conference or not going to conference. So yeah.
And get your scholarships in early. If you want to go to something like PDS, like those programs fill up quickly. So a couple months in advance, make sure you get those applications in.
That's right. What we try to do to help our members or anybody that's going to participate in the program is on the the program registration page will have the deadline information with the fees, and then need financial assistance?
Right.
Question mark.
Right.
Click here, complete the application, and we'll put a deadline on there.
Yeah.
You usually have to submit pretty far in advance because there's a review period, and a lot of people will want to know the decision prior to
Before
making
registering.
that payment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Definitely.
You said you didn't see it coming. What were you expecting?
The one that I thought about, and I can't remember specifically what it is like if you're a chair on a committee that you can get credit towards.
That's another good one.
What can you explain that a little bit? Because I know what it is, but I don't know what it is or can't explain it correctly.
Yes. So it's called Professional Service Experience.
There we go.
PSE for short. And it's a program through NRPA. If you give a presentation, if you serve as a volunteer leader on the board of directors or for like professional development school,
right,
or you're a committee chair, you can take that service experience and have that converted into CEUs that can be applied towards your certification renewal. So we acknowledge that we have not done a good enough job of educating the members on that, and we're trying to be more forthcoming with ProConnect and
right,
PDS and the section volunteer leaders, the board of directors, because it's an easy way to get CEUs without having to spend more money to
right,
attend more education, which requires more time just to get those additional points.
Right. And it was interesting. So Marissa, the other co-host for the podcast, she used to do Let's Talk Parks podcast and actually was looking at trying to get the podcast of interviewing and researching as part of like a CEU, because you're volunteering your time, you're researching, you're like providing education to it. So it's almost something similar to that of like, hey, like you're volunteering your time to go to an event, to help plan an event. Why shouldn't that be just as good as somebody sitting in a room listening to a presentation because they're helping plan it? So yeah, I learned about that, I don't know, 5 years ago or whatever. And I was like, holy cow, like this is an awesome program. Like some people are struggling to get their CEUs the last 6 months and be like, well, you've been doing something for 6 months before that could actually help you get your certification without, like you said, having
right,
to pay for more services for sessions or things like that, or scrambling to do Proderma trainings and lunch and learns and that sort of stuff at the
right,
end to get
right.
everything through.
Did Marissa get credit for the podcast?
I don't
think
think she did, but like we were just talking about that before this episode, and I'm like, maybe even if it's like, hey, you do 2 episodes, you get 0.1 C, like figuring out some sort of criteria, but it'd
we're not going to know until you apply.
Correct.
So I think what you need to do, you and Marissa, is ask for the form.
Yeah.
We'll give you the form, and along with the form, you'll need documentation from IPRA. So in
Gotcha.
this case, for the podcast, you could work with Vince and with Kim.
Yeah.
They'll give you the documentation that you need to submit with the form. For ProConnect, you would work with myself and with Kim. We'll give you the documentation, and you should be able to get quite a bit of CEUs just for the podcast in
Interesting. So the other question then is, somebody else wanted to apply for getting credit for CEU. Who do they go through? And again, elaborate a little bit more on that process.
So good question. The best person to start with would be Kim Laper, our community engagement manager, because she is the main point of contact for the volunteers on the staff side. So what she'll do is she'll first provide the form and say, complete the form, and then ask for the documentation. And she'll either write the letter herself. In most cases, it's going to come from a section volunteer. So she has all the information that she needs to put that together. If it's something that she's unfamiliar with, like if it was the podcast, she would reach out to Vince and say, can you confirm how much time Mark has put into this program, because we have to document for CEUs.
Right.
Or she'll reach out to me, how many meetings and how many programs was Mark involved with ProConnect, because we need to document that.
Right.
So once the individual has the form and the letter, then it's completely out of our hands, and that person has to submit directly to NRPA.
Okay.
They ultimately get to make the decision.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Good to know. Good information. So if you're out there and you do volunteer, you do something that you think you might be able to get CEUs for, follow those steps and hopefully see if NRPA will accept it.
Yeah.
Cool.
That sounds good. So I know you've got a little bit of a soccer background, yeah?
I do.
Yeah.
How do you know that?
Well, we've talked before, right? So this kind of leads me to the next question. What does your dream rec room look like? Would there be some soccer aspects involved? Would there be a shrine to your 6-0 lost Augustana back in the year 2000?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Not to bring that up. But.
My dream rec room, if it's an indoor rec room, got to have a mini fridge in there, right? Okay. I would say, so it's funny, I was on Facebook Marketplace recently. I was looking for something, and I came across this old arcade game that I used to play as a kid. It's called NBA Jam.
Yeah.
Have you played it?
Yeah, of course.
Did you like it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the best.
Okay. Well, this person was asking like $300 for it, $325, and I was this close to pulling the trigger because NBA Jam in my basement would be super cool. I would love that. Besides that, ping pong table.
Okay.
We have one now in our basement,
Yeah.
and I love ping pong. We have some epic battles.
So
in
you're
our
good
house.
then.
I feel like I'm pretty good. Yeah.
All right, I won't challenge. I mean, I don't think I stand a chance. I'll play you, but I don't think I have a chance of beating you, though.
Yeah, we have some good matches in our house. My wife plays, my kids play. Growing up, we had one in the garage. My dad and I played all the time. So my rec room would have to have
Nice.
a ping pong table. But I would say, like, the idea of a rec room for me, like my dream one, would be something outside.
Yeah.
It would not be inside. You know, I envision something like in the mountains, in a dense forest area near water where I can hike, can swim, I can bike, I can just come and go at my leisure. That's the ideal rec room for me.
You just want like a cabin in the woods.
You got it.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds fun. I mean, I would definitely enjoy
Hey,
that.
I'm thinking about retirement. I'm 44. I'm starting to get up there a little bit. I'm starting to think about what those plans are. What do we want?
Although
what does it look like?
I'm drawing
Yeah.
some frightening comparisons now because wasn't the Unabomber like in education and then he like went off into the
Wow.
woods somewhere?
Wow.
So I don't know.
We're
I'm
gonna
just
have to
saying.
talk later.
That's a little bit of a stretch.
Well,
come on.
yeah,
you
come
know,
on.
I think so.
My wife watches nothing but murder podcasts, so like that's the first thing my mind jumps to.
Crazy.
You never know where Vincent's going to
No.
go.
No,
Never,
we
never,
don't.
never.
So this is a perfect
Wild card.
segue to like what's upcoming in IPRA, right?
Yeah, I
Vince?
guess so. About as good as the time as any. So upcoming, we've got the HR Symposium on September 20th. Lunch and Learn with Barry Dunn, Mastering the Difference Between Strategic and Master Plans. That's a question on the CPRE, I will tell you that. It's tough.
That'll be a good one.
That is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, September 27th. And then FM Workshop is going to be on October 3rd, and registration for that closes end of this month. So this month is September.
Yep, and that'll be a Carol stream.
Yep,
Okay,
Carol
nice.
Stream. But if you want to check out any of our other upcoming events, we have a lot of them. Too many to list out in this podcast without it being incredibly long. You can visit the IPRA calendar on our homepage. It will be there always.
That's where always the section meetings, things like that, CPRP prep, those things. Like there's a lot. I think there's like 15 or 20 different things that are coming up this month that you can go to attend to. Big announcement, conference registration is currently open. So if you're looking to go to the Soaring New Heights conference in January, get your registration in now before the rooms book up and everything like that.
Yeah, and along that line, make sure you get your membership renewals done in October once they launch. You will need to be renewed for 2025 to get the member rate for conference. So don't make us hunt you down and make me look good by renewing early. That would be much appreciated. And as an added bonus, any new members, so somebody who has not been an IPRA member before ever, who is coming and wants to become a member, they will get all of October through December included with their purchase of a 2025 membership. So look at the remainder of this year and all of next year for the same price.
It's a nice perk,
3
Yeah.
months free.
3 months free.
Yeah, that's
Why
pretty
not?
good. Yeah.
right?
That's a pretty sweet deal.
Thanks,
I think.
Vince.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Duane. It was a pleasure, and we look forward to the LMS coming out in 2025. We'll put that 12-month calendar out there for you and give
Yeah,
some
keep it
flexibility.
2025.
And appreciate the insights on IPRA, and look forward to working with you and seeing you around the other IPRA events that we got coming up.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. This is pretty cool. Congratulations on the success of the podcast. I'm very proud of you both and Marissa, and looking forward to working with you on ProConnect and
Yes.
learning management system, Vince.
Yeah, got a lot going on.
I know we do, but it's all good things. But thank you for having me.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you for joining us, and thank you for listening. We'll see you next episode.
That's it.
Boom.